John Miller stared at the blinking light on his console, his heart beating faster with each pulse. After 15 years working as a diplomatic officer on Orion Station, he had reviewed thousands of signals from Earth vessels, Mars colonies, and mining operations throughout the asteroid belt. This signal was different. "Computer, run analysis again," he said, rubbing his tired eyes. "Signal confirmed of non-human origin," the computer responded in its flat voice. "Pattern does not match any known human communication protocol." John took a deep breath and pressed the emergency alert button. Within minutes, the small command center filled with station personnel. Captain Laura West arrived last, her uniform hastily buttoned. "This better be worth waking me up, Miller," she said, but her stern expression softened when she saw the readout. "Is that what I think it is?" "Yes, Captain. First contact." The words felt strange in John's mouth. Humanity had expanded throughout the solar system over the last century, but despite all hopes and fears, they had remained alone in the darkness of space. Until now. Laura straightened her shoulders. "Alert Earth Command. All personnel to first contact protocols." The next 12 hours passed in a blur of activity. The signal grew stronger as the alien ship approached, finally resolving into clear communication requests. The universal mathematical language the scientists had developed for potential alien. Contact worked, and basic communication was established. John sat in the observation lounge watching as the alien vessel moved into docking position. It was beautiful and terrifying. A dark purple ship 3 times larger than Orion Station, with curved lines that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Lisa Brooks, the station's military liaison, stood beside him. Her hand rested near her sidearm, a gesture that seemed both unnecessary and completely appropriate. "What do you think they want?" John asked quietly. Lisa's eyes never left the approaching ship. "Nobody crosses the void between stars just to say hello." The docking procedure went smoothly, suggesting the aliens had studied human technology before making contact. A delegation of station officials gathered in the main airlock chamber, with John and Captain West at the front. As the chief diplomatic officer, John would speak first. The outer door slid open and the alien stepped through. John had imagined many forms that alien life might take, but nothing had prepared him for the Krelthax. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, with sleek bodies covered in what appeared to be a combination of scales and armor. Their heads were elongated with 4 eyes, 2 large front-facing ones that glowed amber, and 2 smaller ones on the sides. They moved with a fluid grace that made the humans seem clumsy by comparison. The lead alien wore elaborate armor with glowing purple lines tracing incomprehensible patterns across its surface. It stepped forward and spoke. The sound translated through the communication devices the technicians had prepared. "I am High Commander Vexer of the Krelthax Dominion. We have come to assess this region." Captain West stepped forward. "I am Captain Laura West of Earth's Orion Station. We welcome you in peace and friendship." The alien's upper eyes narrowed slightly. "Peace? Yes. We have observed your kind from afar. You expand slowly, cautiously. This is unusual." John moved forward. I am Diplomatic Officer John Miller. We seek to expand with respect for potential life and habitats we might encounter." High Commander Vexer made a sound that the translator couldn't interpret. The aliens behind him shifted, and John thought he detected amusement. A curious approach. "In our experience, those who can take, do." Vexer's gaze swept over the humans. "Your technology is primitive, yet you have potential. The Dominion could find use for your species." Lisa Brooks stepped forward, ignoring protocol. "And what exactly would that use be, High Commander?" John winced at her directness, but Vexer seemed more interested than offended. "You show more spine than your colleagues, small one." "Are you a warrior?" Vexer asked. "I'm a soldier when needed, a diplomat when possible," Lisa replied evenly. Vexer nodded. "A practical approach. The galaxy is not kind to the weak. Those who survive understand this." The meeting continued in the station's conference room. John noticed how the aliens assessed everything: the room's exits, the technology, even the physical build of each human present. They asked pointed questions about Earth's military capabilities, resource production, and population centers. Each answer seemed to confirm something for them. "Your solar system has abundant resources," Vexor noted. "Yet you harvest them inefficiently." "Captain," West smiled diplomatically, "we balance extraction with environmental considerations. A luxury of those who have never faced true scarcity," another alien said dismissively. As the meeting progressed, John felt increasingly uneasy. The Krelthax spoke of protection and guidance for humanity, but their tone suggested subjugation rather than alliance. They described a galaxy filled with threats, positioning themselves as humanity's only shield against cosmic predators. That night, after the aliens returned to their ship with promises of continued talks, the station's senior staff gathered privately. "They're sizing us up," Lisa said bluntly. "Did you notice their weapons? Carefully displayed but never mentioned." Captain West nodded. "Their interest in our defenses was hardly subtle." John stared out the viewport at the alien vessel. "What do? We can't match their technology if they decide to be hostile." "We keep talking," Laura said firmly. "And we prepare. All transmissions to Earth will be encrypted at the highest level." That night, John dreamed of fire and battle. He saw himself standing on a field of stars holding a sword made of light. Around him, figures moved with purpose, fighting against a darkness that threatened to consume everything. He woke covered in sweat, the dream already fading, but a strange sense of familiarity lingered. The negotiations continued for 3 more days. The Krelthax proposed an arrangement. Humanity would provide resources and limited territory in exchange for protection and some technological insights. The terms were clearly one-sided. On the final day, Vexor stood to leave. "Consider our offer carefully. The universe is vast and filled with dangers your kind cannot imagine. The Dominion's protection is not offered lightly." John maintained, his diplomatic smile, "We will convey your proposals to Earth's governments." Vexor's 4 eyes fixed on John. "Do you know, Diplomat Miller, why we truly came to your system?" "To establish relations, I presumed." Vexor made that untranslatable sound again. "We came because of the old stories. Legends speak of beings who hide their true nature, sleeping, until wakened by necessity." He leaned closer. "You humans seem so unremarkable. But appearances can be deceiving, can they not?" With that cryptic statement, the Krelthax departed, their ship breaking orbit with a flash of technology far beyond human capabilities. That night, across Orion Station and beyond, to Earth and Mars colonies, humans dreamed of ancient battles among the stars. And in something old and powerful began to stir. 6 months after the Krelthax departed, John Miller stood in Earth Command's Situation Room, watching as the massive holographic display tracked hundreds of alien ships entering the solar system. His stomach tightened into a knot. They said they would return. "They didn't say they'd bring an armada," said Admiral Paul Winters, the newly appointed head of Earth's defense forces. Paul was a tall man with gray at his temples and eyes that had seen too many conflicts in the asteroid belt rebellions. "This isn't a diplomatic mission," Lisa Brooks said. She had been transferred to Earth after first contact, her warnings about the Krelthax finally being taken seriously. "This is an invasion force." The room fell silent as the main screen activated. High Commander Vexor's face filled the display, his 4 eyes scanning the humans before him. "People of Earth," he began, his voice translated smoothly. "The Krelthax. Dominion has deliberated on your place in the galactic order. Your technology is primitive, your military weak, yet your resources are plentiful. We offer you a choice. Serve the Dominion as a protected resource world or resist and be conquered. You have 3 of your Earth days to decide." The transmission ended, leaving the room in stunned silence. President Carol Reeves stood slowly. "Admiral Winters, what are our chances if we fight?" Paul studied the tactical display. "Their technology outmatches ours by at least a century, but we've been preparing since first contact. Every ship has been armed, every soldier recalled. We won't go down easily. And if we surrender? Asked the Chinese representative. Lisa stepped forward. Based on our analysis of Krelthak's culture from first contact, protected resource world means essentially slavery. They'll take what they want and leave us the scraps. The vote took less than an hour. Earth would fight. As the meeting broke up, John approached Paul. The dreams are getting worse, he said quietly. Last night I saw an entire city burning, but it wasn't Earth. The buildings were crystal, and there were 3 moons in the sky. Paul nodded grimly. You're not alone. Reports are coming in. From across Earth and Mars. People dreaming of battles, of strange technologies, of worlds we've never seen. He rubbed his temple. And headaches. Terrible headaches that the doctors can't explain. Lisa joined them. You both should see this. Dr. Ellen Gray has found something. Dr. Ellen Gray's laboratory was buried deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. The walls were covered with images of cave paintings, ancient tablets, and stone carvings from cultures separated by thousands of miles and years. Look at these symbols, Ellen said, pointing to a recurring pattern. They appear in Sumerian tablets, Egyptian tombs, Mayan carvings, and Aboriginal rock art. For centuries, archaeologists thought they were independent inventions, but the mathematical probability of that is nearly 0. She pulled up a new image, AIB's brain scan. And here's the interesting part. This is my brain during one of those dreams we're all having. The activity pattern matches the symbol arrangement exactly. John stared at the images. What does it mean? Ellen's eyes gleamed with excitement and fear. Something was here before us. Something that left its mark on every ancient human civilization. And I think it's waking up. Their discussion was interrupted by an emergency alert. The Krelthaks had attacked the Mars colony. In the command center, they watched helplessly as the feed from Mars showed alien ships raining destruction on New Armstrong, the largest human settlement. Buildings collapsed under energy weapons fire, and defense systems failed after mere minutes. They're not waiting for our answer, President Reeves said, her face ashen. This is a demonstration of power. Paul watched as the casualty numbers climbed. Among them was Sam Collins, his childhood friend who had moved to Mars 15 years ago. Something inside Paul shifted, a feeling of pressure behind his eyes, a ringing in his ears that grew louder with each passing second. Admiral Winters? Lisa's voice seemed to come from far away. Are you all right? Paul didn't answer. In his mind, he saw a battlefield on a distant world. He felt the weight of armor he had never worn, heard the sounds of weapons beyond human invention. Knowledge flooded his consciousness. Battle formations, tactics, and strategies developed over thousands of years of warfare among the stars. Get me a direct line to the Mars Defense Fleet, he said, his voice deeper and more commanding than before. Tell them to regroup at these coordinates and prepare for my arrival. John and Lisa exchanged worried glances as Paul began issuing orders, with absolute authority, using technical terms no human should know. Sir, a young lieutenant said nervously, the fleet can't reach those coordinates. The Krelthaks have established a blockade. Paul's eyes glowed faintly blue for a moment. The blockade has a weakness at its southern axis where their ships are, maintaining too wide a coverage pattern. Their shield harmonics can be disrupted with a properly timed electromagnetic pulse. We've used this tactic against them before. Before? President Reeves asked. Admiral, what are you talking about? Paul blinked, the glow fading from his eyes. I don't know where that came from, but I know it will work. Against all conventional military advice, the Mars Defense Fleet followed Paul's instructions. The small human ship slipped through the gap in the Krelthaks formation. When the aliens adjusted to attack, the fleet released electromagnetic pulses exactly as Paul had described. The alien shields flickered and failed, allowing human weapons to pierce their previously impenetrable defenses. It wasn't a victory, too. Many human ships were lost. But it was the first successful counterattack against the seemingly invincible Krelthaks. In the aftermath, Paul collapsed from exhaustion. Medical scans showed unusual brain activity similar to Dr. Gray's findings. What's happening to me? Paul asked when he regained consciousness. Ellen sat beside his bed. The same thing that's happening to people all across Earth. The dreams, the headaches, the sudden knowledge, they're getting stronger as the Krelthax get closer. I knew things I couldn't possibly know, Paul whispered. Battle tactics against an alien species we met 6 months ago. It felt like I'd fought them for centuries. Ellen showed him a tablet with ancient symbols. According to my research, every culture on Earth has legends of gods or spirits who would return in times of great danger. What if they weren't myths? What if they were memories? Outside the medical bay, John and Lisa watched Earth's meager defense fleet prepare for battle. In orbit, the Krelthax armada grew larger by the hour as more ships arrived. We need a miracle, Lisa said. John touched his temple, wincing at the now familiar pain. I think we're about to get one, or become one. Across Earth, Mars, and the human settlements scattered throughout the solar system, people began to change. A construction worker suddenly understood how to modify his equipment into a weapon. A school teacher devised a shield system using materials from her classroom. A child drew detailed schematics for technology no human had invented. In the Krelthax command ship, High Commander Vexor received troubling reports of unexpected human resistance. He studied the battle footage from Mars, focusing on the moment, when the human ships had exploited the weakness in his fleet's formation. Impossible, he whispered. They couldn't have known that tactic unless... He turned to his second-in-command. The old warnings were true. The war gods of Earth are awakening. Ellen Gray had not slept in 3 days. Her laboratory had become the center of Earth's most urgent research project. Dozens of scientists worked around the clock, analyzing brain scans and ancient artifacts. The walls were covered with images of the strange symbols and charts tracking the increasing number of awakening incidents across human settlements. It's accelerating, she told John Miller and Lisa Brooks as they entered the lab. Last week we had 50 confirmed cases. Today we have over 3,000. John rubbed his temple, the headaches now a constant companion. What exactly is happening? To us? Ellen led them to a secure room where a 3-dimensional model of human DNA rotated slowly in a holographic display. We've identified a gene sequence that exists in roughly 30% of humans. It's not natural to our species. You're saying we were modified? Lisa asked, her military training making her instantly suspicious. More like supplemented, Ellen said. This sequence has been dormant for thousands of years. It doesn't affect normal human development or function, but now it's activating, and when it does... She pulled up brain scans of Admiral Winters and other awakened individuals. These patterns suggest the emergence of memories and knowledge that don't belong to the person. Whose memories are they? John asked, though part of him already knew the answer. I believe Earth was once a sanctuary, Ellen said quietly, a place where an ancient advanced species hid themselves from some great threat. They didn't just visit us or influence our development, they became part of us, embedding their consciousness into our genetic code, to be awakened when needed. Lisa frowned. That's why the Krelthax came here, they knew. A technician burst into the room. Dr. Gray, the Krelthax have broken through the Jupiter defense line. They'll reach Earth in hours. On the front lines of humanity's defense, chaos reigned. Space stations designed for research and commerce now served as military outposts. Civilian ships had been hastily converted into combat vessels. Many had already been destroyed. Karen Phillips worked frantically in a medical bay on Station Delta, treating wounded soldiers as they arrived from battle. She was a nurse from Portland who had volunteered after the Mars attack. The medical bay shook as another explosion hit the station. We need to evacuate, said Dr. Neil Ross, wiping blood from his forehead. This station won't last much longer. Karen finished bandaging a young soldier's arm. We can't move the critical patients, they'll die. The ship rocked again, more violently this time. Warning lights flashed as a hull breach was detected 1 level below. Karen heard screams and the terrible sound of air rushing out into space. Her head suddenly felt like it was splitting open. She fell to her knees, images flooding her mind. Battlefields on distant worlds, advanced medical techniques, tactical information about station defense systems. When she stood again, Her eyes glowed with a soft golden light. She moved to the communications panel with complete confidence. "This is Medical Officer Serena of the Defense Corps," she said, her voice carrying an authority she had never possessed before. "We have a Level 3 breach on Deck 7. I need a security team to the medical bay for evacuation, and I need Station Defense Control to give me access to Section 5 auxiliary systems." To Dr. Ross's amazement, the station's security responded immediately to her commands. Within minutes, a team arrived to help move patients. Karen, or whoever she had become, quickly reprogrammed the environmental controls to create pressure seals around the damaged sections. Across the solar system, similar transformations were occurring. On the mining colony of Ceres, Eric Daniels, a maintenance worker, suddenly reprogrammed the colony's drilling equipment into makeshift defense turrets that successfully repelled a Krelthax scouting party. On Earth, a high school physics teacher named Alan White developed a shield modification that doubled the effectiveness of planetary defenses. In the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Winters coordinated humanity's forces with uncanny effectiveness. The man who had once been simply Paul was now something more, his tactical brilliance guided by the consciousness of Helios, an ancient battle commander. "They're adapting to our strategies," Lisa said as they watched the battle unfold on the main display. "The element of surprise is fading." Paul nodded grimly. "They fear what we're becoming. That's why they're pushing so hard to reach Earth. They want to stop the awakening before it spreads further." John, who had been quiet, suddenly straightened. His eyes flashed with blue light. "They won't succeed. The network is forming." Lisa stared at him. This wasn't the diplomatic officer she had known for years. His posture had changed, his voice deeper. "John?" He turned to her with a smile that seemed both familiar and strange. "I am still John, but I am also Corthan. The memories are merging now." He looked at Paul. "You feel it too, Helios?" Paul nodded. "The more of us who awaken, the stronger the connection grows." Ellen burst into the room, excitement on her tired face. "We've found it. The genetic marker. It's responding to a signal coming from within Earth itself. There's some kind of structure, buried beneath the Gobi Desert, at least 50,000 years old." On the Krelthax command ship, High Commander Vexor reviewed the latest battle reports with growing concern. The human resistance should have crumbled by now. Instead, they were adapting, using tactics and technologies that should be beyond their capabilities. "The ancient records were right," said Sub-Commander Rilke. "The war gods are awakening." "Legends and superstitions," Vexor growled. "They are simply a primitive species with stolen technology." Rilke hesitated, then spoke, carefully. "The Council ordered us to destroy them before they could fully awaken. But what if that was a mistake? What if the prophecies about them were misinterpreted?" "You question the wisdom of the Dominion?" Vexor's eyes narrowed dangerously. "I question our understanding of the prophecies," Rilke said. "The texts speak of the sleeping gods as destroyers, yes, but also as protectors against a greater darkness. What if—" "Enough!" Vexor slammed his fist on the console. "Prepare the primary fleet for the final assault on Earth. We will burn their world before any more can awaken." As Rilke left, she made a decision that would change the course of the war. She secretly transmitted the Krelthax attack plans to a human frequency. Back on Earth, Lisa Brooks received the unexpected transmission. "It's Krelthax battle plans, sent by one of their own commanders." John, now partly Corthan, studied the information. "A division among their ranks, we can use this." Paul nodded. "Prepare our forces. We know where they'll strike first." For the first time since the war began, humanity had a real chance. The network of awakened humans grew stronger by the hour. Those who carried the ancient genetic legacy found themselves sharing knowledge across vast distances, coordinating without the need for conventional communications. Ellen monitored the phenomenon from her lab. "It's beautiful," she whispered, watching as the awakened human's brain patterns synchronized across the solar system. They're becoming something greater than the sum of their parts. Outside Earth's atmosphere, the largest battle of the war was about to begin. The fate of humanity and the ancient consciousness awakening within them hung in the balance. The Gobi Desert shimmered under the hot sun as a team of researchers and soldiers approached the coordinates Dr. Ellen Gray had identified. John Miller wiped sweat from his brow, feeling the strange pull of the place growing stronger with each step. Beside him, Lisa Brooks scanned the empty landscape with suspicious eyes. "Are you sure this is the right location?" she asked Ellen, who was studying a handheld device. "The signal is strongest here," Ellen confirmed. "Whatever we're looking for is directly beneath us." As if triggered by her words, the ground began to vibrate. Sand shifted, revealing a metallic surface that had been hidden for millennia. The team stepped back as a doorway formed in the ancient structure, opening to reveal a dark passage leading underground. "It's responding to our presence," John said, feeling Corthan's memories stirring within him. "It recognizes the awakened." They descended into the earth, their way lit by soft blue lights that activated automatically as they moved forward. The passage opened into a vast chamber filled with technology unlike anything humans had created. At the center stood a pillar of swirling energy, pulsing in rhythm with the awakened human's heartbeats. "This is it," Ellen whispered. "The source of the signal activating the genetic markers." John approached the pillar, drawn by Corthan's memories. "This is a repository, not just of technology but of knowledge." He placed his hand on a nearby console, and information flooded into his mind. "Our ancestors built this as their last act before merging with humanity. They left us the tools we would need when the time came." In orbit above Earth, Admiral Paul Winters directed the human fleet with growing confidence. The intel provided by Subcommander Rilke had given them a critical advantage. Human ships targeted weak points in the Krelthax formation, using strategies that seemed to anticipate the alien responses perfectly. On the bridge of his flagship, Paul received a transmission from the Gobi Desert facility. "We've found weapons, Admiral," John reported, "and ships, hidden beneath the surface waiting to be awakened like us." Within hours, excavation teams uncovered massive hangar bays across the desert. Inside were sleek vessels that hummed to life at the touch of the awakened humans. Weapons systems buried beneath ancient monuments worldwide activated, rising from their long slumber. High Commander Vexor watched in growing alarm as new vessels joined the human defense fleet, ships of ancient design but tremendous power. His tactical display showed human forces pushing back his fleet for the first time since the war began. "Impossible," he growled. "They were primitive less than a month ago." An officer approached cautiously. "Commander, we've lost contact with our forces at Jupiter and Saturn. The humans have retaken both positions." Vexor's anger was interrupted by an alert. A small Krelthax ship was approaching under a flag of truce. The communication officer's voice was tense. "It's Sub-Commander Rilke, sir. She requests permission to return with human representatives." Vexor's four eyes narrowed. "Permission granted. I want to hear what excuses the traitor offers before her execution." When Rilke arrived, she was accompanied by Lisa Brooks and 3 other humans whose eyes glowed with the light of awakened consciousness. "You betray your own kind to side with these primitives?" Vexor demanded. Rilke stood tall. "I side with truth, Commander. The prophecies were misinterpreted. The humans aren't our enemies, they're the guardians the ancient texts spoke of." Lisa stepped forward. "Your legends of the war gods were built on fear, not understanding. The beings you feared didn't conquer humanity. They chose to become part of us, to evolve with us." "A convenient claim," Vexor scoffed. "One we can prove," said a human scientist whose eyes shone with ancient wisdom. "The beings you call the war gods faced the same enemy your legends warn about, the void consumers who exist beyond the galactic rim. Rather than maintain their separate existence, they chose to merge with a young species with potential, to guide our evolution until we were ready." Rilke produced an ancient Krelthax text. "Our own histories speak of the great alliance that stood against the void before recorded time. The war gods were part of that alliance. Vexor hesitated, centuries of Krelthak's dogma warring with the evidence before him. Before he could respond, alarms blared across the ship. "Commander!" a panicked officer called out. "Our long-range sensors detect a massive energy disturbance beyond the heliopause. Something is coming." On Earth, Ellen Gray monitored the awakening process from the newly discovered facility. The technology was beyond her understanding, but with Corthan's guidance through John, she was learning quickly. "The repository contains records of the war god's final battle," John explained, his voice blending with Corthan's deeper tones. "They faced an enemy that consumed entire stars. They couldn't defeat it entirely, only drive it back and set warnings throughout the galaxy. And now it's returning," Ellen realized. "That's why the awakening is happening now." John nodded. The war gods knew the timing would be close. Humanity needed to develop enough on our own to handle the merge, but the threat couldn't be allowed to return before we were ready. Throughout the solar system, the battle against the Krelthaks transformed into a desperate alliance. Vexor, faced with sensor readings of an approaching force that dwarfed both fleets combined, made a difficult decision. "All Krelthaks vessels," he broadcast, "stand down attacks on human targets. Prepare for defensive formation against the approaching entity." On Earth, Admiral Winters assembled a joint human Krelthaks command center. Former enemies now planned side by side, their differences small compared to the consuming darkness approaching from beyond the solar system. "The ancient weapons will help," Paul said, his voice carrying Helios's authority. "But our real strength is in unity." More humans awakened hourly as the threat grew closer. Karen Phillips, now fully merged with the healer Serena, developed medical techniques that could repair damages to both human and Krelthaks physiology. Eric Daniels, housing the consciousness of the engineer Darius, created defense systems that linked the technologies of both species. In the desert facility, John and Ellen worked to activate the final systems left by the war gods. Ancient ships rose from hiding places around Earth, summoned by the call of their awakened pilots. Lisa returned from the Krelthaks flagship with Rilke and unexpected news. "Vexor has agreed to a full alliance. The Krelthaks Dominion is sending reinforcements from their home systems." "Will it be enough?" Ellen asked. John looked at the tactical display showing the approaching darkness. "It has to be. Humanity wasn't just a hiding place for the war gods. We were their hope for the future, the next evolution in the fight against the void." Across Earth, Mars, and throughout human settlements, people looked to the skies with new understanding. The war that had seemed like an invasion had been merely a prelude. The true battle, the one their ancestors had prepared them for across millennia, was about to begin. The combined fleet of human and Krelthak ships formed a defensive line at the edge of the solar system. Ancient vessels piloted by awakened, humans took the lead positions, their weapons glowing with energy drawn from the repository. Paul Winters, now fully embodying Helios, addressed the gathered forces from the command center. "Today we stand not as humans or Krelthaks, but as guardians of life itself. The enemy we face consumes without thought or mercy. But we have done what our ancestors hoped. We have evolved, we have awakened, and we are ready." As the darkness approached, John felt something he hadn't expected: hope. Across the mental network linking all awakened humans, he sensed the same determination. They had been preparing for this moment for 50,000 years, through countless generations. The war gods had awakened, and this time they would not merely drive the enemy back. The darkness at the edge of the solar system was unlike anything humans or Krelthaks had ever seen. It didn't reflect light. It absorbed it, creating a void that sensors couldn't penetrate. The combined fleet held position, ancient weapons powered, and ready. "What exactly are we facing?" Lisa asked, standing beside John in the command center buried beneath the Gobi Desert. John's eyes glowed blue as Corthan's memories provided the answer. "They have no true name in any language. We called them the Void Consumers. They feed on energy, from stars, from planets, from living beings. They destroyed 1,000 worlds before the Alliance finally drove them back. On the main screen, Admiral Paul Winters coordinated the defensive line. His movements were precise and confident as Helios's battle memories guided him. All ships maintain formation. Do not engage until given the command. The first attack came without warning. Tendrils of darkness stretched out from the void, wrapping around the outer Krelthax vessels. The ship's lights flickered and died as their energy was drained in seconds. "Primary weapons, fire!" Paul ordered. Beams of blue-white energy shot from the ancient vessels, cutting through the darkness. The void seemed to recoil, pulling back briefly before surging forward again. In orbit around Earth, Karen Phillips directed the medical response from a station that had, until recently, been a Krelthax warship. Her eyes glowed golden as Serena's. Knowledge guided her hands. "The void entities are energy beings," she reported to the command center. "They're drawn to our power sources first. Biological energy is secondary to them." Eric Daniels, now partly Darius, worked frantically with a mixed team of human and Krelthax engineers. "We've modified the shields based on the repository data. They should resist the energy drain for at least a short time." The battle raged across the outer solar system. The void entities moved faster than expected, surrounding and draining ship after ship despite the combined fleet's best efforts. In the Gobi facility, Ellen Gray studied the ancient records with growing concern. The war gods fought them to a standstill last time, but they never truly defeated them. They've been growing stronger in the darkness between galaxies. John nodded grimly. The repository shows their pattern. They consume a galaxy's energy, then retreat to digest it for millennia before returning stronger. The command center shook as a proximity alert sounded. The darkness had broken through the outer defenses and was approaching Earth directly. "All planetary defenses online," Lisa ordered, her military training combining with the tactical knowledge she'd gained from the awakened humans. Across Earth, ancient weapons emerged from hiding places, from beneath the pyramids of Egypt, from under the ocean floor near Japan, from deep within the Amazon rainforest. Each activated as awakened humans took control, their minds linked in a vast network of shared consciousness. On his flagship, Vexer watched with a mixture of fear and awe as the humans deployed technology that had been thought lost to time. "The legends were true," he said to Rilke, "but they were incomplete. The war gods didn't leave. They transformed," Rilke nodded. "And now we must help them, or all will be lost." The Krelthax fleet repositioned to protect Earth, their weapons modified based on the ancient designs. It wasn't enough. The void entities pushed forward, consuming energy faster than it could be replaced. In the Gobi facility, John suddenly straightened. The repository contains one final weapon, a solar converter. It can channel the sun's energy directly against the void. "That much power could destroy Earth if something goes wrong," Ellen warned. "We have no choice," John replied. "The converter needs multiple awakened minds to control it safely." Paul's voice came through the communication system. "The void has broken through our last line. Earth has minutes, not hours." John looked at Ellen and Lisa. "I need you both with me. The converter requires at least 4 awakened minds." "I only count 3 of us," Lisa said. Ellen took a deep breath. "I've been having the dreams too, the headaches. I've been fighting it." John took her hand. "Don't fight it anymore. We need you. All of you." Ellen closed her eyes, finally allowing the presence that had been trying to emerge to come forward. When she opened them again, they glowed with purple light. "I am Lyra, Keeper of Knowledge, and I know how to activate the converter." The 4 of them placed their hands on the ancient console. Energy flowed between them, their minds connecting more deeply than before. Through the mental network, they reached out to every awakened human in the solar system. "We need your strength," John Corthan projected. "Your focus." Thousands of minds joined together, creating a unified consciousness that stretched across space. Paul Tarnhelios directed the remaining fleet to fall back to Earth. Karen Serena prepared the medical stations for casualties. Eric Darius reinforced the planetary shields. As the void approached Earth, the solar converter activated. The sun flared with sudden brightness as its energy was channeled through the ancient network. Beams of concentrated light shot from each of the hidden facilities on Earth, combining into a single massive stream that struck the heart of the darkness. The void writhed and twisted, trying to absorb the energy, but the stream was too powerful, too focused. Where the light touched the darkness, the void entities began to break apart. Vexer watched in awe from his ship. They're doing it, they're actually driving them back. The strain on the awakened humans was enormous. John felt Corthan's consciousness merging more completely with his own, as they channeled more and more energy. Across the mental network, he sensed the same happening to others, the ancient and modern minds becoming something new, something neither had been before. The void entities retreated under the relentless assault of solar energy. Unlike the previous battle thousands of years ago, they weren't merely being pushed back. They were being consumed by the very light they had tried to extinguish. After what seemed like hours, the last traces of darkness disappeared from the solar system. The solar converter powered down, leaving a profound silence in its wake. In the Gobi facility, John collapsed to his knees, exhausted beyond measure. Lisa and Ellen helped him to his feet. "Is it over?" Lisa asked. John nodded slowly. Yes, not just driven back this time, destroyed. As the days passed, the awakened humans found their dual consciousness settling into a new balance. The ancient beings didn't fade away, but they no longer dominated their hosts. Instead, they became partners, sharing their knowledge while learning. From their human counterparts, the Krelthax stayed to help rebuild. What had begun as an invasion became the foundation for an alliance between species. Vexer, humbled by what he had witnessed, proposed a formal treaty of cooperation. "Our legends taught us to fear the war gods," he told the Earth Council. "Now, we understand they were protecting something precious, the potential of humanity itself." 6 months after the battle, John stood with Lisa and Ellen on a hillside overlooking the rebuilt New Armstrong colony on Mars. The settlement now included a Krelthax district, the first of many planned joint colonies. "Do you still feel him?" Lisa asked. "Corthan?" John smiled. "He's part of me now, not separate, not controlling, just there, like remembering who I was in another life." Ellen nodded. "Lyra says the merging was always the plan, not conquest, but partnership. The war gods needed what we had as much as we needed their knowledge." "And now," Lisa asked, "what happens to humanity now that we've awakened?" John looked up at the stars. "Now we take our place in the galaxy, not as conquerors or as servants, but as guardians. The void is gone, but there will be other threats, other challenges, and we'll face them together." In a small house on Earth, a child of 5 looked up at the night sky. Her eyes flashed briefly with a soft blue light as she pointed to a distant star. "That's where we came from," she said to her surprised parents. "A long, long time ago." The cycle continued. The war gods slept once more, but this time within a humanity that understood its heritage and its destiny among the stars.